Preview. What are cultural values? Decentralized and centralized power, individualism and collectivism, uncertainty and certainty, masculine and feminine perspectives, and long-term and short-term time orientation. Decentralized and centralized powers are fundamentally different. Decentralized power cultural values are different from centralized power cultural values. You may have been exposed to this idea in your government or civics classes. In decentralized power, leadership is not vested in one person. Power is distributed among the people. Decisions are likely to be made by consensus or voting. In centralized power structures, there's more of a militaristic approach to power. They prefer strongly organized, centrally controlled forms of government. A great example of a decentralized power structure is our government. We don't live in a democracy, we live in a republic, meaning, of course, we elect our leaders to vote on our behalf. We don't vote on every single issue, we elect people who we want to do that for us. Decisions are made by consensus by the people who we have elected. A centralized power approach is very different. There's more of a militaristic approach to power. A great example of a centralized power structure might include China. Research suggests that people from Australia, Israel, Denmark, New Zealand, and Ireland typically prefer minimized power differences between others. They strive for more equal distribution of authority and control. Research suggests that people from Malaysia, Guatemala, Panama, and the Philippines are all high on the centralized power scale. Individualism and collectivism. Individualistic cultural values are different from collectivistic cultural values. Individualistic cultural values value individual recognition, self-realization, and they tend to be loosely knit socially. Collectivistic cultures value group achievement. They strive to accomplish goals for the benefit of the group. Instead of giving individual rewards, the group is rewarded. Uncertainty and certainty. Cultures with uncertainty cultural values have a tolerance for ambiguity and relaxed and informal expectations for others. Places with certainty cultural values develop and enforce rigid rules for behavior and establish elaborate codes of conduct. People generally from Greece, Portugal, and Guatemala generally do not like uncertainty, while people from Singapore, Jamaica, and Denmark are more comfortable not knowing what will happen next. Societies with higher uncertainty avoidance scores generally prefer to avoid uncertainty. They like to know what will happen next. Societies with lower scores are more comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty. Masculine and feminine. A culture that values achievement, assertiveness, heroism, and traditional male and female roles are generally thought of as masculine cultural values. A culture that emphasizes building relationships and seeking peace and harmony with others is generally more of a feminine cultural value. These are not connected to gender. These are values. Societies with higher masculinity scores value high achievement, men in more assertive roles, and more clearly differentiated sex roles than people with lower scores in this cultural dimension. Countries that are great examples of masculine cultural values include Japan, Australia, Venezuela, Italy, Switzerland, Mexico, Ireland, Jamaica, and Great Britain. Those that scored closer to the feminine scale include Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, Denmark, Costa Rica, Finland, Chile, Portugal, and Thailand. Long-term versus short-term time orientation. Long-term orientations are more future-oriented and value perseverance and thriftiness. Short-term orientations are more past and present-oriented, respect tradition, and preserving face. Societies with more long-term orientations toward time tend to value perseverance and thrift. Societies that have more of a short-term orientation toward time value the past and present, respect for tradition, saving face, and spending rather than saving. Great examples of long-term oriented cultures include China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Brazil, India, Thailand, Hungary, Singapore, Denmark, and the Netherlands. Countries with more of a short-term orientation include Pakistan, Czech Republic, Nigeria, Spain, Philippines, Canada, Zimbabwe, Great Britain, the United States, Portugal, and New Zealand. There are four big barriers to bridging differences and adapting to others. These include assuming superiority, assuming similarity, assuming differences, and stereotyping and prejudice. Surface Universals by Donald Brown illustrate the danger in assuming differences. Most cultures have beliefs about death, have a childhood fear of strangers, have a division of labor by sex, experience envy, pain, jealousy, shame, and pride, use facial expressions reflecting emotions, and experience conflict and want it resolved. We have 6 stages of intercultural competence from least to most. The first is denial, the second is defense, the third is minimization, the fourth is acceptance, the fifth adaptation, and the sixth integration. In denial, a person denies that there are cultural approaches to behavior beyond that of his or her own culture. In the defense stage, a person believes that his or her own culture is best, otherwise known as ethnocentrism. In the minimization stage, a person minimizes cultural differences between himself and herself and others. In the acceptance stage, a person begins to realize that there are other culturally based ways of behaving. In the adaptation stage, a person consciously seeks to appropriately adapt his or her behavior in response to cultural differences. In the integration stage, a person is integrated into several cultures and minimizes his or her own cultural identity. There are 2 cultural perspectives that begin with the root ethno. The first is ethnocentric. Ethnocentrism is a view that one's own culture is superior to all others. Ethno-relative is the appreciation for and sensitivity to cultural differences. Our model for the stages of intercultural incompetence demonstrates a gradual movement from ethnocentrism to ethno-relativism. Other-oriented communication is communication in which we focus on the needs and concerns of others while maintaining our personal integrity. It's achieved through the process of socially decentering and being empathic. Social decentering is a cognitive process through which we take into account another person's thoughts, values, background, and perspectives. What's the difference between sympathy and empathy? Sympathy is demonstrated compassion. It's an acknowledgement that someone is feeling a certain emotion, often grief. Empathy is different. It's an emotional reaction similar to the reaction being experienced by another person. Sympathy is feeling for, empathy is feeling with. To feel empathy and to demonstrate empathy, it's important to stop, look, listen, imagine, and paraphrase. Here's where we've been. What are the 4 forms of human diversity? What is intercultural communication? How does culture influence communication? What are cultural values? What are the barriers to bridging cultural difference? And what are the 6 stages of competency?